Hi everyone, Ray here with Smith Government Consulting. Hope you're having a great new year so far. Here to do a little tutorial video for you. Recently I posted an article on EPA mods, your economic price adjustments, and how they're going to work, how you should be looking at those, what you need to do to make sure that those get approved. One of the things that we discussed in the article is your CNP, and that comes out of the FCP, and the CNP stands for your compliance and pricing. And it's basically the 4P results that GSA is going to use to evaluate your pricing. They're going to use the same report for EPA mods and for ad mods. So I thought it'd be really important. Let's take a look at what some of those flags are going to be. So just to give you an idea of how I've gotten to some of these, I took some CNP results from previous mods that I've done, and I changed the manufacturer names and the part numbers so they reflect the ones that I've been using on all of my tutorial videos. Basically, I've just used some movies that I enjoy watching. My personal favorite, The A-Team. I know I loved the show as a kid. I was probably a little too young for it, but loved it anyway, and that's why it made the list. So some of these flags that we're going to see, you can read them here. Review LOS requirement. That's going to be your letter of supply. And high. So these are the things we're going to look at here. The word high, that means that you have a high price. Prohibited item, that's one to definitely take a look at. Self-hits only means that GSA couldn't find any comparable items for it. Just review the LOS requirement. Or a low, that means that the price you're offering is significantly lower than anybody else on GSA. So out of this column, the first thing I'm going to take a look at is going to be the prohibited item. And I'm going to look and see what does it say is prohibited. It says that this is a remanufactured item. So if you are selling something that is remanufactured, that's definitely something to kind of look at pulling off your contract. If that's an error, and I've seen that a lot, I've actually never seen this be a correct error. It does happen, I just haven't seen it with my vendors yet. You're just going to put a note into here on what that actually is, that it's not remanufactured, and then discuss that with your contract officer or your contract specialist and see what you could do to make sure that they're aware, hey, that's not an accurate flag. Some other things we're going to look at ETS. Is this an essentially the same item? So that would be referring to ability 1 items. And I can see everything's coming up false, so we're all good there. I don't have to worry about that. This is the country of origin that you have put in or input into the system. This is the country of origin that GSA is thinking that those items are and where they're pulling it from. So they're pulling from the vendor pool and they're saying, hey, this one might be wrong. So that's something to take a look at. And it's also saying, is it a made in America risk? Yes or no? It's saying yes because you have that as a US country of origin. So let's just say you go through the work and you realize, oh, our fault. We're going to correct that country of origin on there. But the big one here is a TAA risk. And none of those are TAA because every country there is TAA compliant. Then these are the basic things that are there, your delivery days, your FOB origin or destination, your new pricing. But what we're going to pay attention to here is going to be right in here. These are the main flags that we want to take a look at. So exceeds market threshold. That means that GSA is very unlikely to award this to you under the new pricing. So we can see the market threshold that GSA is calculating is $76.61, and you're proposing $87.60. So you have a couple options there. One, you can lower that price to be in that market threshold. But before you do that, I'm going to encourage you to go over here. And I had to block some of these out because of confidentiality issues. But you want to take a look at who is GSA comparing you to. A lot of times you're going to find that it's your own pricing that they're using, which is not a fair representation because obviously you're increasing your price, so it doesn't really help to compare you to the old one. But you also want to double check the seller, their contract number will be listed in here. Is that contract still on GSA Advantage? I would say a lot, probably the majority of times I've looked at this, it's comparing you to a price that doesn't exist anymore or a contract that doesn't exist, or that contract holder no longer offers that product. So take a look at those things and make sure. Self-hits only perform manual research, manual market research. If you have a mod that has less than 20 items on here where you're looking at doing manual research, I would say just go ahead and do that before you submit your mod. That way your contract officer knows it's done already. If you have a large mod of a couple hundred or a couple thousand items, you're most likely going to want to wait until your CO comes back to you and says, here are the items that we want to see have market research. They're not, most of them, I shouldn't say all, most of them are not going to ask you for market research on every single item. They have a calculation that they're going to use that says, here's the set number of items that we want research on. Again, if it's a really small amount of items that have this flag on it, I would just say go ahead and do it because it's easier. And I have another video here on YouTube and on LinkedIn that shows you how to do that market research and some templates to use for that. Then within market threshold, anything that says it's within market threshold, you're pretty good. You don't have to worry about that. That means that it's past GSA. It's either sellers on GSA Advantage or sellers on the commercial marketplace, and you're within that threshold. And then, so this is all based on who they're comparing you to. And you can see there's a pretty good amount of comparisons on there. But this is a really, really important one, the sales likelihood. So the first several items have an unknown likelihood, and this one is saying it's possible that you're going to sell it. And then your annual demand quality. So there's 1,032 annually demanded for that item. So that's a decent amount that you have a pretty good shot of selling that. And hey, look, it's my favorite movie. So the A Team, solid in there. Go 𝘂𝘓𝗏, you're probably going to sell. These other ones, it's a pretty low likelihood that you're going to sell. So those are things that you can take back to your sales team and say, hey, are you guys actually moving this item? And if not, why are we wasting our time performing an EPA mod on this every year and we're only selling one or two of them? It's not worth it for you anymore. Or it may not be worth it for you anymore. I shouldn't say it's definitely not. That's your decision to make. But those are some questions I would start to ask. Then all the way over to the right, we start to see your vendor part number, your SIN, identifiers, and then your product name and description. So again, these are ones that you have filled out. Before you get to the CNP, the one thing you are going to see is before it hits here, if any of these fields, the item description, are less than 10 words, not characters, but 10 words, you're going to see that flag before you can get to the CNP, and they're going to make you fix that. Same thing with an item name. That's got to be a minimum of 3 words. Remember, again, I can't stress enough, that is not character count, that is word count. And again, all just some things that you have your unit of measure. If you had any sale prices, your photos, warranties, all that stuff that's basic that we've covered in a couple other videos. Again, the most important flags that you want to take a really good look at, let's go on back over to it, I just don't want to go too far, are these here. Anything that's exceeding market threshold or is a self-hit only. Those are the ones that you really want to pay attention to, as well as prohibited items. Make sure that we're not selling anything that's not allowed. If you have any questions, I know this is a really busy time for everyone to be doing these EPA mods. Reach out anytime. I'd love to have a quick chat with you and see if there's anything we can go over and help you out. Other than that, I hope you have a great year. Good luck selling in 2026. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.